On average, every 100 yuan of debt now sells for just 7. China's decade-long consumer credit boom is coming to an abrupt end in a mass sell-off of bad debt. In the first half of this year, 24 licensed lenders, including Zhaolian and Bank of China Consumer Finance, put bad debt worth 50 billion yuan up for sale, covering over 10 million loans. Compared with the same period last year, 60% more institutions joined the sell-off, and the number of loans involved has doubled. What's really worth noting is the price these debts fetch. An IOU for 100 yuan now sells for just 7 on average, a fire sale price of roughly 93% off. What's being sold off here isn't clothes or shoes, it's the entire industry's confidence that it will ever get repaid. Large lenders are offloading billions at a time, while small ones are rushing to sell debt that's barely 2 or 3 months overdue. Across the board, the industry is scrambling to push uncollectible money off its books. This is Chen's China Prism. In this episode, let's trace the rise and fall of this consumer credit retreat. To understand this 50 billion yuan fire sale, we first need to look at how these lenders used to rake in massive profits. Starting around 2015, lending apps sprang up everywhere on people's phones, and the industry entered an era of easy money. Advertising on major apps to bring in customers was cheap, and lenders used big data risk control as a buzzword to sound professional and trustworthy. Interest was split into all sorts of fees: guarantee fees, membership fees, service fees, dressed up in endless variation. Many products that actually charged 36% or more a year advertised rates as low as 7.2%, designed to trap ordinary people who couldn't do the math. Behind many of these lenders stood banks and big tech companies. Under the banner of make credit accessible to everyone, they steadily raised people's borrowing limits from a few thousand yuan to tens or even hundreds of thousands. Their logic was simple. As long as interest rates were high enough, they'd still turn a profit even if some borrowers never paid back. As long as enough people kept borrowing, the game could go on forever. By 2021, the top lenders were each pulling in over 2 billion yuan in annual net profit. It was, by all appearances, an easy business built on lending as much as possible, until the loans piled up so high that the risk became impossible to contain. In April 2025, new regulations took effect, boiling down to one core rule. Whatever you call it, interest or service fees, the combined annual rate could not exceed 24%. The old trick of quietly padding rates under different names was dead. By November, the rules had tightened even further. For any new loan, all costs combined could not exceed a 20% annual rate. One industry insider ran the numbers. Between daily operations, advertising, funding costs, and bad debt, a lender needed to charge at least 15 to 20% annually just to turn a profit. With the new rate cap locked at 20%, that margin was essentially wiped out. Businesses that had lived off high interest now had to either shut down or force themselves to transform. For small lenders that couldn't manage risk well and couldn't access cheap funding, it was essentially a dead end. While profits dried up, the pile of uncollectible debt kept growing. There were two main reasons. First, the sheer volume of loans issued over the years meant more borrowers inevitably fell behind. Second, debt collection is now tightly regulated, and doing it by the book costs so much that collecting in-house actually loses money. Before 2025, many lenders relied on gray area collection tactics that at least clawed back some cash. But once regulators cracked down hard on coercive collection, every step came under scrutiny and legitimate collection efficiency collapsed. In the end, less than 5% of the debt could be recovered. Collection costs actually exceeded the amount collected. For these lenders, it made more sense to bundle the IOUs and sell them cheap than to keep pouring money into collection. Once sold, the bad debt disappears from the books, the lender gets some cash back, and its numbers look better for regulators. More and more lenders chose this quick exit approach, which is how these absurdly low prices came about. In recent years, bad consumer debt has kept getting cheaper to sell, especially old debts owed for years, where a 100 yuan IOU now goes for just 7. It's not just that the debt itself is worth less, it's that everyone believes the odds of ever collecting it are shrinking. Within this sell-off, large and small lenders are having very different experiences. Three major players, Zhaolian, Bank of China Consumer Finance, and Hongyan, account for nearly half of all bad debt put up for sale, making them the main force behind the sell-off. Bank of China Consumer Finance carries the most old bad debt, having sold off more than 13 billion yuan of it in 2025 alone, some owed for nearly 9 years and effectively dead for good. Overall, among the more than 10 million loans sold off, nearly 80% had been overdue for over a year. That shows this isn't a problem at a few individual lenders. It's the industry-wide fallout of years spent lending recklessly without worrying whether the money would ever come back. Small lenders are in an even tighter spot. Some are rushing to sell debt that's barely 3 months overdue. Not because it's already unrecoverable, but because they simply can't afford to wait. Every extra day means more spent chasing the debt and uglier numbers on the balance sheet. But for borrowers, don't for a second think that once your debt is sold, you're off the hook. You're out. Once the IOU changes hands, the only thing that changes is who's chasing you. From the original lender to a dedicated debt collection firm, you still owe every last cent. In fact, these debt collection specialists are often under even more pressure, which can make their tactics harder to deal with. For ordinary people, having your debt sold off is often just the beginning of the trouble. Current policies and incentives are all pushing lenders to clear bad debt off their books quickly, moving the risk out of the banking system first. But that bad debt hasn't disappeared, it simply moved from one ledger to the open market. The underlying risk hasn't gone anywhere. The firms taking it on now face borrowers they could barely reach, steep collection costs, and razor-thin recovery rates. If these buyers can't collect either, will the debt simply get resold again, sinking further downstream into the hands of smaller collection firms with even harsher tactics? Or will it get repackaged into wealth management products and sold to ordinary investors, planting a whole new set of risks? One thing is certain, the consumer lending industry has left behind the days when handing out easy money, guaranteed easy profit. It has entered a new stage. Low interest rates, tight regulation, and competition on real skill. The advantage of large players will only grow, while smaller ones get weeded out one by one. But behind those more than 10 million sold-off loans lies a credit crisis facing millions of ordinary people, the wreckage left by a decade of frenzied borrowing and unchecked industry growth. When an entire industry starts a fire sale, who ends up footing the bill? We'll wait and see. This is Chen's China Prism. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. See you next time.